Hi guys, understand these four things and you'll get 400 out of 400 in the SAT writing and language section. I'm going to give you 4 tips. Okay, there's only 2 types of questions. Okay, although a lot of people try to confuse you by saying 4 or 5 different types of questions, just think of them as 2 types of questions. The first type is mostly grammar, based on your grammar rules, as well as sentence structure, etc. Okay, parallelism and things like that. The second type is what they call command of evidence. That's where they want you to improve a paragraph. Where should the sentence be placed? Where should this paragraph be placed within the passage and things like that. Okay, now here's my tip number 1. 80% of the questions are of the first category. So if you know your rules and know general English, sentence structure, your tenses, etc., you can score 300 to 320 just by doing that. Okay? Now tip number 2, 50% of the answers are actually in the question paper. What do you mean by that? Remember, wherever they want you to find an error, they're going to underline that text, right? So the rest of it, where they do not have errors, obviously, which is not underlined, it's going to be written in proper English. So if you pay attention, the non-essential clauses, the tenses, the parallelism actually is being shown to you in the section that's not underlined. That's very important to know. Okay? Now, tip number 3. What most kids do in a rush, obviously, because I understand that you have 35 minutes only to answer 44 questions. So what people do is initially remember the first 2, 3, 4, 5 questions is going to be mostly grammar only, right? So as soon as they see a sentence, which is underlined or some portion underlined, they start answering then the next one without reading the text. Okay? They may read just that one sentence and you can still get the answer right. But here's the problem with it. When you come to the evidence type questions, where they ask you, should the paragraphs be rearranged? Should this sentence be added? Should this sentence be removed? You won't be able to answer because you didn't really comprehend the passage, and that's very important. So here's what I recommend. My tip number 3 is that you read a paragraph, then answer all the questions in the paragraph. Okay? Move to the next paragraph. Answer all the questions in that paragraph. This way you're doing 2 things. In fact, you can say you're hitting 2 birds with 1 stone because you're answering the questions and you're going to get them right. Secondly, you're also understanding the passage. So now if they say, 3rd paragraph, they might say, is this the right topic sentence? Or how would you change it? You don't have to go back and reread. In fact, you won't have time, right? You won't have to go back and reread the passage. You will know what the right answer is. But again, always use process of elimination. We talked about that in a different video. Okay, so that was my tip number 3. Tip number 4, this is my favorite. Know your non-essential clause or phrase. Okay, in a sentence, understand what is non-essential because many times they're going to trick you with this. They will have a sentence start, then they have a non-essential, and then they have the remaining sentence. Okay? So here's the trick to it. As soon as you recognize there is a non-essential phrase or clause, remove that and then read the sentence. So if you remove that, then you won't go wrong in terms of, is it a plural, is it singular or whatever, because what they're going to normally do is to trick you into thinking you're modifying what's in the non-essential clause. Actually, you're not. So those are my 4 tips. Okay, just to summarize. 80% of the questions fall in the first category. Just know your rules. Okay? That's going to get you about 300 to 320. Tip number 2, 50% of the answers you're looking for are actually in the text itself. Okay? Just pay attention when you read, not just to the lines or the text that's underlined, but overall try to make sense. Okay? Now tip number 3, read a paragraph, answer the questions in that paragraph. All the questions in the paragraph. In the next paragraph, doing the same because that helps you answer the evidence-based questions, so the command of evidence questions, right? And then the last tip number 4, is that know your non-essential clause or phrase. Okay, so when you come across a question and you see there's a non-essential clause or phrase, remove that, read the rest of the sentence, and then it will be much easier for you to answer the question correctly. Okay, remember these 4 tips and you can get to 400 out of 400 in SAT's writing and language.